Poker has taken the world by storm. A game of wit and daring, poker attracts millions of new players each year. 21 of the world's best players from 21 different countries have come to Las Vegas to compete for international bragging rights and $500,000 in prize money. After a series of group matches, 6 players advanced to the semifinals. One spot in our heads-up championship final has already been decided. 5 players return today to see who will face Australia's Tony G for the first ever Intercontinental Poker Championship title. The first semifinal dominated by Australia's Tony G. He put on a show and provided the commentary.
There's an Afrikaner. Bye-bye. You feel my power, baby? Feel my power. You're a terrible player. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
For Tony G, it was all about poker, and that was it.
I don't have anybody's here.
In the end, he held off Japan's Yosh Nakano to earn the first seat in our heads-up championship final. Welcome to the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas and the second chance semifinal in the Intercontinental Poker Championship. Hi everybody, Jeff Medders as always with Gabe Kaplan. 5 players and a last chance to get to the final against Australia's Tony G.
What are you doing? You have no respect for me. What's the matter with you? This is TV. What do you think, this is a joke?
That kind of behavior was a nightmare for the players, and especially Russia's Ralph Perry. He has big motivation to get back to the finals.
Absolutely. Tony G showed Ralph Perry no respect at all. But all these players are motivated. It's $150,000 just to get to the final, and the respect of all your homeboys in your own country. Everybody's motivated.
5 players, just 1 spot. Let's meet the remaining semifinalists. First up, Japan's Yosh Nakano, beaten heads up by Tony G in the first semifinal. He returns as the chip leader. Sam Farha grew up in Beirut, Lebanon, one of the most feared and sharp-dressed players in the game. Ralph Perry, born in Russia, sharpened his game in Brooklyn, ambushed by Tony G in the first semi. He'd love a rematch. Steve Wolf, the CEO type, a successful businessman who brings in 15 years of playing experience. And from France, David Benyamine lives in Paris, travels the world playing the poker tournament circuit. The chip count for this second semifinal determined by how well they fared in the first semifinal. First out was David Benyamine. He will start with the short stack.
Who's going to be the chosen one to play against Tony G?
We're all desperate to play heads up, huh?
We should just refuse right now. We're not prepared to play against Tony. Someone else has to play.
Well, I know Ralph Perry wants to play against Tony G. Tony was very abrasive dealing with Ralph Perry.
It's tough to play against Tony.
It sure will. 20.
Tony G, the subject early on here, you know, and these players probably guarded optimism, looking forward to getting another shot at him.
Well, more than guarded optimism, he's the kind of guy you want to play and you want to beat, particularly Ralph Perry, because he was so abrasive against Ralph Perry. Steve Wolf's raised it up to 20,000 with a 10 deuce of hearts.
3s and a 9 on the flop. That misses everybody.
Doesn't stop Steve Wolf from betting 35,000. They all want to play against Tony G, and I think particularly Ralph Perry. First decision is Steve Wolf.
And Wolf takes down the pot, 75,000. We started with 21 of the best players in the world after group play. We narrowed that down to 6 semifinalists. That first semifinal match won by Australia's Tony Guoga. These 5 players are back for our second chance semifinal. The winner moving on against Tony G. Best 2 out of 3 in the championship final. The early blinds at 4 and 8,000. The action to Wolf, he folds, and Ralph Perry pocket aces.
And Ralph Perry starts chewing a little faster on whatever it is he's chewing on. He's got something to chew about.
Sam bet.
Betting.
And stops chewing long enough to bet 24,000. Yosh folds in the small blind, and Sam Farha with an ace-7 suited.
Chop? You chop or not?
Chopping the pot is
Well,
something players do in cash games. Sam is just kidding about it here.
All right, then let's play.
And on the flop, Sam Farha now with 2 pair. He pairs his 7, has the ace kicker, but Perry's still ahead in the hand.
That 7 is going to get Sammy in a little trouble here, because if Ralph Perry had something like ace-king, ace-queen, he would still bet. Sammy knows that, and his 7s might be the best hand. So I think Sammy's at least going to call here.
Raising 75,000 total.
He actually raises 50,000 to 75,000. He wants to find out right now if Ralph Perry has better than ace-king. Don't think Ralph Perry would call here if he had ace-king. It's possible Sammy's drawing. There's 2 diamonds out there. Also a straight draw if Sammy had a hand like 8-9. Even a hand like 8-jack. Ralph Perry's just going to call. Ralph Perry doesn't like the 2 10s that are out there. Sammy could have a 10.
Turn brings a queen of hearts.
Sammy does not like that queen.
He checks to Ralph Perry.
And Ralph Perry has totally stopped chewing whatever it was that he was working on before. He's going to find out right now, it looks like, if Sammy's got a 10 or not.
And Ralph Perry bets 100,000.
And Sammy, who some people say is a Humphrey Bogart of poker, throws his hand away and says, "That's all right, sweetheart. We'll play it again some other time."
Thank you.
See, he's an actor. People were applauding for Ralph Perry. Sammy said, "Thank you."
Perry takes down the pot. So here's how you play No Limit Texas Hold'em. Each player is dealt 2 down cards. Players can then decide whether to call, raise, or fold. The community cards are then dealt. The first 3 are called the flop. This is followed by a round of betting, and then the turn card or 4 street. Another round of betting, and then comes the river card and a final round of betting. What makes it no limit is that players can bet all of their chips at any time, going all in. Players then show their cards, and the best 5-card hand wins and takes the pot. Blinds haven't changed. The action will be to Russia's Ralph Perry, who took down the last pot. Ralph with a king 9 offsuit. He folds. France's David Benyamine, a king and 8 of diamonds.
Raising to 20,000 total.
Small raise to 20,000. Wants to get some action in case he gets the right flop.
Sam Farha on the small blind. 9-7 suited. He makes the call.
Here's looking at you, kid. Raise me 20,000.
And Wolf in the big blind. 5 and 3 of clubs.
He's going to call. This is a good play. He's got the big blind anyway. Could get lucky with his flop and win a big hand here. Looking for some clubs or small cards.
3 players going to the flop. A 7 for Sam Farha, a 3 for Wolf, and 2 diamonds in there for Benyamine.
Everybody's got a piece of the flop. Steve Wolf bets out 45,000. Steve Wolf continues to play like it's heads up, not a ring game. When you flop anything in heads up, you got to bet it. And David Benyamine is going all in here with his flush draw. Sammy immediately throws away his pair of 7s, and I don't see how Steve Wolf can call with his pair of 3s. If he does, he's an underdog. But Steve Wolf has done some strange things, but not this time.
I said about 260.
France is on the board. David Benyamine started the second chance semifinal with the short stack, but he is putting up a fight. CBS Sports Spectacular, the Intercontinental Poker Championship, is sponsored by PartyPoker.net. Play free and learn at PartyPoker.net. Welcome back to the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas at the Intercontinental Poker Championship. Jeff Medders along with Gabe Kaplan. 5 players still at the table. Chip lead right now belongs to Perry. The winner here guaranteed at least 150,000. The action to Sam Farha. 9-4 offsuit for Sam. He folds. Wolf folds. Ralph Perry on the button. He also folds, and David Benyamine in the small blind. He has king 10 offsuit. He raises it to 24,000.
It's good enough for David.
And Yosh in the big blind, he makes the call. So just 2 players going to the flop, and Benyamine has a pair now for his 10.
And he checks. You may think Yosh rubbing his nose like that is a tell, but it's not. Just one of his idiosyncrasies, does it all the time.
A jack on the turn.
That gives Yosh Nakano an open-end straight draw, and he stops rubbing his nose.
Both players check. And it's an 8 on the river.
Yosh makes it straight. David checks. Yosh going to make some kind of bet here.
Take it.
Yosh just reaches for the chips, and David folds, frustrated in how he played the hand.
Tony G got the best of Yosh in last week's first semifinal. Yosh would love another shot at Tony G.
Well, with Tony, I mean, I was in a position where I should have beat him. I had, way the best hand. I'm all in.
I call. Well, you're favored again.
Poker can be a cruel game sometimes. Sometimes when you're supposed to win, you get very, very unlucky. And so I got unlucky against him.
This is the thing about poker, is that anyone can come out and win. They don't have to have the best hand all the time.
Sometimes people are running hot. It's best to stay out of their way. And everybody, sooner or later, cools off. Would love to get in the finals with them. And hopefully you can't get lucky 2 out of 3 matches.
I think that little statement might have been for Tony G's ears. Yosh is hoping Tony G hears
Play
that.
against you every day if you go all in every time.
I'd love to play against you, buddy. If I can just get this business of mine to where I don't have to go to work anymore.
Blinds have been raised to 6 and 12,000.
7-10 of clubs. Sammy loves these kind of hands.
Unless you guys want to play alone.
We've done that before, Sammy and I, but he had me outnumbered. He had 2 assistants on each side of him. Yes, you did. You had those 2 girls, they were needling me about how badly I play.
Sammy doesn't look too comfortable with this conversation.
Perry on the button makes the call. Ace 4 of diamonds.
They were with Lee Salem, actually.
Exactly. There you go. It was Lee, not me. You beat me that time, I remember.
Case of misidentity here. Was another player, wasn't Sammy with the 2 girls.
4 to the flop, 3s and a 7 for Nakano and Farha.
Yosh bets 30,000.
Just hope I don't have to wire in money.
And Sammy's going to call with his pair of 7s. Sammy's going to need a 10 or 2 clubs.
Perry takes a second look. He folds. Benyamine folds. And a 6 of diamonds on the turn.
Doesn't help Sam, but Yosh doesn't like the 6 because he knows that Sammy's very capable of playing 4-5 or 7-6. And Sammy might even have a 3. So Yosh has got to bet enough here. And he does. He bets 90,000. So if Sammy raises, Yosh is probably going to go out.
Wow.
Sammy might call with his hand, but Sammy's not going to raise, I don't think.
Care, do you?
Probably going to go out. And Yosh's question was answered. Good bet, 90,000.
Japan's Yosh Nakano started the day as the chip leader, and he takes down the pot, 198,000.
He was drinking. That's why it was fun. It was.
Yeah, you like to play with guys with a drinking, huh, Sammy?
It's not that. He was. I mean.
You took me off one night, too. I was drinking.
No. You weren't drinking. You were asleep.
Well, that's why I was sleeping.
He went like this, Ralph. I said, I'll raise. He woke up. I'll re-raise.
I know that.
Yeah, but without looking at the cards.
Yosh is famous for his endurance. He can play 3 or 4 days straight. Just take little cat naps at the table, wake up and say, I raise, I fold, I'm going out, whatever.
Without looking
but
at
he's
the
a
cards.
legend.
That was the funniest thing I ever did. I've ever seen. You remember that? When you were asleep, you can't remember it.
You think Yosh was treating you special by sleeping between hands?
Didn't make any difference. He had me beat, probably.
He's done that to every player alive.
36,000.
Benyamine has raised it to 36,000. Yosh Nakano in the small blind, wide awake, with a pair of 5s.
I wish I did. 200, 220 maybe.
And we know Yosh is going to call at least.
What do you got over there? I can't see what you got, Sammy.
Me?
You got what?
Oh, don't worry about me. I never beat you anyway.
300,000?
Sammy's still in this pot. Yosh a little concerned about him also.
I raise.
Yosh announcing he's going to re-raise.
I raise 160.
So he adds another 160,000 to that.
We raising
No.
160,000.
Close there.
Sammy's out. David's out. Be nice if Yosh would take a little nap at some point during this tournament since we've heard so much about it.
National pride on the line, but this was a format built on second chances, but it's the last chance for one of these 5 players to make the championship final.
Tony G.
Possible. It beat me 2 out of 2.
You thought he was just power playing you, huh?
I really like Tony.
Well, he was, wasn't he, with the hands he had?
I think he's funny. I like him. I really do.
Poker table, yeah.
I think he's funny. I like playing with him.
Yeah, the kind of guy you'd like to invite home for dinner.
No.
A lot of the players here praising Tony G. I think Sammy is sincere in his praise. I think Sammy really enjoys playing with Tony. Ralph Perry's praise, I don't know if that would pass a polygraph
I like
test.
him. Never
I think
played
Ralph
with him.
does want to play him.
I think he's pretty into
Get even for
Yeah,
what
I
happened
never
last
played,
time.
yeah.
And Tony G is undefeated in the tournament, won the Group A shootout, won the first semifinal. And David Benyamine in the big blind, and he is all in with his ace-9 of
David,
diamonds.
Why don't you start gambling?
David's still a low stack.
I had a buck right hand. Don't tell me I'm not gambling.
Ralph Perry wants to
4-5 offsuit.
point out to everybody that he played 4-5 offsuit, so they'll think
Exact in the spade.
he might be playing hands like that in the future. Little advertising never hurts.
4-5 offsuit.
And France does take down the pot. Benyamine adds 18,000 to his stack. And ace-queen for Sam Farha.
His first quality hand in a while, and he's just going to call. He chooses to slow play this ace-queen of diamonds, hoping to get involved in a pot and disguise his hand.
David Benyamine out of the small blind. He calls.
Go ahead.
And Yosh lets it go. Now let's see if Sammy's strategy works out. One of these players might flop a pair, and it might be the best hand.
And Farha flops top 2 pair.
The only problem is he might not get any action. David Benyamine has a pair of 3s, but it's going to be tough for him to call a $25,000 bet here. But Sammy did not raise before the flop, and David Benyamine's going to call here. Loose call here, and it was a loose call before the flop. He could actually win with a 3. That's his 13% there.
No help for France's Benyamine on the turn. He checks.
Sammy's got to fire again. And David Benyamine immediately throws away his hand.
And Lebanon Sam Farha takes down the pot. Keeps his hopes alive to make that championship final against Tony G.
If he does make the final against Tony G, it'll be interesting to see if after it he has the same positive feelings about Tony G.
Blinds have been raised to 8 and 16,000. Benyamine with suited Jack 4. And Sam Farha with ace-queen again.
I'll raise.
How much?
Not a whole lot, not much.
This time he's not going to slow play his ace-queen. He's raising to 40,000. Steve Wolf in the small blind throws 8, 9 of hearts away. Ralph Perry with Jack-queen. He's already got 16,000 invested here. He's got the big blind. It's going to cost him 24,000 to call.
You can give it up, Ralph. I mean, you don't have to gamble every hand. You don't have to prove nothing.
Ralph called because he knows Sammy's capable of raising with almost anything here.
9 and 2 kings on the flop.
Sammy doesn't flop anything. Ralph's got an inside straight draw. He would make a straight with a 10. But Sammy took the lead in the hand, and Ralph Perry checks.
And Sammy's going to bet 70,000.
Now, Ralph Perry is summarizing the situation here. He's got an inside straight draw. Does he feel Sammy has a king? He does not. Ralph Perry's an excellent reader of poker players. I'm interested to see how he's going to play this hand. 3 of diamonds. Insignificant card, and Ralph Perry checks. I thought he might bet there. Sammy's got to be very leery here. 2 kings came on the flop. Ralph Perry wasn't scared. He called him. He's got to put Ralph Perry on at least a pair of 9s. Maybe a king. Does not put Ralph Perry on the hand that Ralph Perry has. Inside straight draw. Sammy checks.
And on the river, the 10, and so Ralph Perry makes his straight.
Ralph Perry's not checking anymore. He bet 70,000 because he wants to get called. He's putting Sammy on exactly the kind of hand he has.
Biggest hand I had tonight. Maybe for years.
And Sammy says, what can I beat? If Ralph was on a straight draw, he's made at least a pair of 10s. Anything beats me. Sammy's trying to think of a hand he can beat, and he can't come up with one, so he throws it away.
Rushes Ralph Perry, takes down the pot, 298,000.
Very good call on the flop.
Japan, Russia, and South Africa sit 1, 2, 3. All 5 players, though, still alive in this second chance semifinal match. Poker fans, get the latest information from around the world of poker, including tournament updates, advice from pro Josh Aryeh, and much more at cbssportsline.com/poker. All 5 players still at the table. The winner today guaranteed at least $150,000. Blinds don't change. Sam Farha with a jack, 5. He folds. Same for Wolf, and now Ralph Perry on the button with an 8-7 offsuit. Down to David Benyamine in the small blind with a suited 9-8.
Might put a little raise here. Down to him and Yosh. Looks like he's just going to call.
Yosh Nakano with an ace-8 in the big blind.
Generally, when you have an ace heads up, you have the best hand. Yosh knows that. He raises 40,000. And David Benyamine's going to call with his 8-9 suited.
Nakano the favorite as they go to the flop. 5, 6, 10.
David Benyamine's got an inside straight draw. David Benyamine is going all in. Needs a 7 for a straight. And Yosh is definitely thinking about calling him with ace high. David Benyamine was ready to make a move, and I think Yosh knows it.
Okay.
And Yosh calls almost immediately. A great call by Yosh.
No.
Ace high is the best hand right now. David Benyamine is going to need a 7 or a 9. Yosh very happy with himself. He's wide awake right now. David Benyamine needs a 7 or a 9.
And it's a queen on the turn.
Down to the river. He can also win with a jack here. Jack will make him a straight also. 7, 9 or jack.
And France gets the 7, and David Benyamine has made his straight.
Maybe Yosh is better off sleeping then.
Benyamine takes down the pot, 346,000. With that lucky 7, he climbs into contention now from the short stack. Russia's Ralph Perry is now the chip leader. Blind stay at 8 and 16,000. Action to David Benyamine. He folds, Yosh folds. Sam Farha sitting on the button with an ace-6.
Same rule applies here. Sam has an ace. It's probably the best hand. He's going to raise with it.
And rushes Ralph Perry in the big blind with a pair of 4s.
That's pretty close to ace-6.
All in.
Wow, Ralph Perry going all in.
Wow, Ralph, I haven't beat
Great read by Ralph Perry. He's going to put Sammy Farha all in. I don't see how Sammy could call with ace-6. If Ralph Perry has an ace, Sammy would be dominated. Ralph Perry has the only kind of hand that Sammy would be even money against. Sammy can't call. Another good play by Ralph Perry.
And Sam Farha not looking very happy.
He's thinking maybe Ralph Perry made a move on him.
Blinds have been raised to 10 and 20,000. Action to South Africa, Steve Wolf. He folds. Ralph Perry with 4 deuce. He also throws him in. And David Benyamine, ace king for him.
Ace king in the button.
68.
Benyamine's going to raise it to 68,000. Yosh Nakano, a 10. And there's another 10. So Yosh with a pair of 10s in the small blind.
We know for sure Yosh is going to call. Those white chips are $10,000. Got enough money to call, and he's probably considering putting David Benyamine all in, and that's what he does. He's going to put David Benyamine all in, and David Benyamine immediately calls.
Yeah.
This is the classic race situation. Actually, Yosh has a pair of 10s. Makes it more difficult for David Benyamine to make a straight, and Sammy had an ace. So David Benyamine is only 43% to win this pot and stay in the tournament.
On the flop, a set of 10s now for Yosh Nakano.
And David Benyamine is going to need a jack.
Right.
Jack would make him another inside straight, and he'd win this pot.
3 of hearts on the turn.
He would have won the pot if he made a jack and Yosh didn't pair on the river. Now, David Benyamine needs a jack.
And he gets a 4 of diamonds on the river. And Yosh Nakano has eliminated David Benyamine. So France is out of the Intercontinental Poker Championship.
Thanks.
This time it was Japan that crossed the marginal line.
Yosh Nakano started the day as the chip leader. He is back in that situation. Sam Farha now, the player with the short stack. Welcome back to the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas at the Intercontinental Poker Championship. The Palms Casino Resort is the place to party in Las Vegas. After hitting the tables and slots on the Palms' vast casino floor, head up to the Ghost Bar or dance like a rock star at Rain. The Palms features 21 of the world's most outrageous suites. There's no other place like the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas.
I wonder if those 2 girls were the 2 girls from the story that Steve Wolf was talking about.
He's got chips now, so he could get him up to anything.
I don't think you guys are supposed to talk in the middle of a hand.
Yosh Nakano on the button.
How much
Ace
more?
Queen suited.
Make it 60, excuse me, 70,000.
Raised to 70,000.
All right.
Sammy tempted for a split second with King 10, but throws it away.
South Africa, Steve Wolf with Ace 3 suited now in the big blind.
It isn't much, but it's all going in.
Steve Wolf couldn't wait to use that line. That's his famous honeymoon line. He uses it, but he's in bad shape here if Yosh calls, and Yosh probably will. Steve Wolf, Ace 3 of spades, all in for 316,000. It's going to cost Yosh 246,000. And I think Ace Queen is the dividing point that Yosh is definitely going to call with. If Yosh had Ace Jack, he might think more seriously about it.
Still taking his time.
Well, I
He
must be in a
calls.
whole heap of trouble.
I hope you got an ace. You got an ace?
Yeah,
I like my hand. King 10.
I'm in complete. I don't know what came over me.
Just wanted to use your
It'll be
line,
up to you,
Steve.
Yosh.
Well, the lucky sunglasses going on, and Yosh Nakano has him dominated.
You only play with the best hand.
Steve Wolf
all
is
I
going to
can
need
do.
some spades or a
Can't do
3.
anything else after that.
Oh, what's this? Damn.
5s and an 8 on the flop.
Not a bad flop
Spade.
for Steve Wolf. You can split the pot with an 8.
I have a spades, 8 spades.
9 of hearts now on the turn.
Now he can split with an 8 or a 9. Could win the pot with a 3, otherwise he's eliminated.
And it's a 5 of diamonds on the river.
No help for Steve Wolf.
No, I thought I paired the board.
Yosh Nakano eliminated France's David Benyamine, and now he gets South Africa's Steve Wolf.
But at least Steve Wolf got to use his line.
And with that run, Yosh Nakano is now the chip leader. We're down to our final 3.
The player that I just got knocked out by Yosh Nakano is a very good friend of mine, and who I think has what it takes to get to the final table with Tony G and to beat Tony G. I unfortunately moved all my money in with ace-3 of spades. Unfortunately, he had ace-queen suited.
That trophy going to our eventual Intercontinental Poker Champion. Yosh Nakano, pair of 3s on the button.
I'm all in.
And Sam Farha with a king 8, he goes all in.
Sammy's tired of waiting. Wants to win a pot.
Of course.
But he's caught Yosh with a pair. Not a great pair.
You probably would have won if you raised it. I would have filleted my hand down.
Sammy's telling the truth. Yosh would have raised going in. Sammy would have thrown that king 8 away. Now Yosh has got a decision.
You'll be chip leader if you beat me.
The Farharettes looking on.
Kind of an anxious look for them.
Sammy's fan club.
They call the valet. Get the limo here.
No, I'm going to gamble with you.
Yosh is going to gamble, hoping
help.
Sammy doesn't have an overpair.
Ace is good. 3s is good. Got it.
And Yosh is 53% here. I don't know what the Farharettes are applauding about. Yosh is a favorite to knock Sammy out.
Here comes the flop, and a set of 3s now for Yosh.
Sammy is dead. Sammy cannot win this hand.
That's funny.
There are no 2 cards in the deck that Sammy can win with.
All right, guys.
Sammy Farha is out.
4 3s.
That's
Look at
not
that.
enough. The 4th 3 coming on the turn.
Well, now Sammy can win with a 7.
Good luck, guys.
Just kidding, everybody.
And Sam Farha eliminated. After a quiet start, Japan's Yosh Nakano has now been picking them off left and right. It started with France's David Benyamine. Nakano takes him down. And then South Africa's Steve Wolf decided to go all in.
I'm incomplete. I don't know what came over me.
That was Yosh's cue to take action. Then Sam Farha tested the waters. He met with the same results. It was raining 3s.
Look at that.
And now we're ready to go heads up. Japan's Yosh Nakano with a near 2-1 chip lead. One of these 2 players will advance to meet Australia's Tony G in the final and guarantee himself at least $150,000. Back at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, just off the Strip and home to the Intercontinental Poker Championship. Jeff Medders along with Gabe Kaplan. We go heads up, Japan versus Russia. And Gabe, these are the 2 players coming in here that really wanted a second shot at Tony G.
Definitely, as Ralph Perry looks at ace-6 of hearts. Tony G was more abusive to him than I've seen a poker player act toward another poker player in a long time. Really unnecessarily abusive. So Ralph Perry wants another shot at Tony G. And Yosh had the best hand against Tony G when it got heads up, and Tony G drew out on him, so he wants another shot. So you're right. Both these players want to get in the final against Tony G.
5-7 queen coming down on the flop.
Yosh flops an open end straight, would make a straight with a 4 or 9. Ralph Perry doesn't have anything, but he wants to see where Yosh is at, so he bets 60,000. Yosh has that open end straight. Was considering raising for a second, I think, but decided just to call.
Jack of diamonds coming on the turn.
No help for Yosh. Ralph Perry would win the pot here if he bet, but he was scared of that call on the flop.
And another jack on the river.
Yosh did not make a straight. Only way he can win this hand is to bet as he rubs his nose again.
And he bets $120,000.
$120,000 bluff here. Ralph Perry's not throwing his hand away immediately.
We've seen him read players well all day. You know, will he continue to do that right here?
Well, he knows that Yosh either has a hand like Queen 10, Queen 9, or he's missed a draw. He doesn't think Yosh would bet a pair of 7s here because Ralph might have a pair of 8s or a pair of 9s. So if Yosh had a pair of 7s, he'd probably just check. So Ralph knows it's either a pair of queens or it's a bluff. And he calls. Great call by Ralph Perry. Great call.
8 high. 8 high.
Let me see your hand. I mean,
That's kind of unusual. Yosh said 8 high, and Ralph Perry said, I got to see your hand. Don't generally see that at this level of poker. A player like Yosh says 8 high. That's what he has. Ralph Perry wanted to make Yosh turn over his hand. I don't know why.
You might remember last week, first semifinal, Tony G busted Ralph Perry, and that is when the fireworks started.
The last hand, Tony limped 10, so I decided to raise 120,000. He moved all in, and I called him. I thought I had the best hand.
Yeah! Yeah, baby! Come on, Russian, get out. It's time to go. Yeah! Look at this. Look how he's doing. Look how he's playing. Look how ugly this is. You're a professional player, and I can do this to you. You're a terrible player.
He looks like a fool. He made himself look bad. He really didn't hurt me.
You play that as bad as you can. Your career is finished.
It goes from here, or I just blank it because it really means nothing.
Now, he doesn't deserve any applause.
I'm feeling good. I'll be playing poker, and I just hope he's going to have money and keep playing poker too, you know?
Ralph Perry said a couple of things in that interview. One I believe and one I don't. The thing I believe is he believes he's a better player than Tony G, and he's looking forward to playing him again. I believe that. I don't believe that what Tony G said didn't bother him. I think he was very annoyed by it.
Blinds raised to 15 and 30,000. Yosh Nakano in the small blind with an ace-3 of diamonds.
He's going to raise it. 80,000 here.
Perry with a suited King Jack, and King Jack's what he lost to Tony G with.
Right. This is suited King Jack here. Notice how quiet it's gotten between these two. Yosh did not like Ralph Perry asking him to turn over his 8 high. Like I said, it's kind of not done at this level of poker. It might be pretty quiet between these two from here on in. I know Ralph is going to call with his King Jack of Hearts. Looks like he's considering a raise here.
Re-raise.
And he does re-raise.
Now remember, ace-3 of diamonds is the hand Steve Wolf had. Not ace-3 of diamonds, but ace-3 suited is the hand Steve Wolf had when Yosh knocked him out. And Yosh doesn't want to be in against the bigger ace. So Yosh, a very deliberate player in these circumstances, does not want to get involved any further in this hand.
And with that, rushes Ralph Perry, takes down the pot.
Yosh actually did have the best hand there, but Ralph made a good raise.
Perry adds to his chip lead.
And the quiet continues.
Blinds go up to 20 and 40,000. Jack 10 offsuit now for the Russian.
He's going to call.
Queen deuce for Yosh.
Yosh lets it go. Says, let's see a flop.
And a queen on the flop for Yosh.
Check.
And he checks.
Trying to induce Ralph Perry to try and take this pot away here.
40,000.
And Perry does. He bets 40,000. Yosh doesn't know that Ralph Perry has an open end straight. Yosh wanted him to bet, and Yosh is going to raise.
That's been raised.
Raises to 160,000. It's going to cost Ralph Perry $120,000 to draw at his straight. And he's going to call. He knows if he hits that straight, he's probably going to win this match. He knows Yosh would not raise unless Yosh had a pretty good hand here, probably a pair of queens.
3 of spades on the turn.
Now we'll see how zeroed and focused in on this hand Yosh is. If he is really focused in, he will go all in just like he did. Yosh was focused. He knew a pair of queens was the best hand. Ralph's not going to call. This is Russian theater here. And the show ends. And Yosh Nakano correctly suspected Ralph Perry was on a draw, and he takes back the chip lead.
That's exactly where he started the day as Ralph Perry reflects on the hand. Yosh with just more than $1 million in chips. Tony G waiting on one of these two players in the championship final at the Intercontinental Poker Championship. CBS Sports Spectacular, the Intercontinental Poker Championship is sponsored by PartyPoker.net. Play free and learn at PartyPoker.net. Heads up in our final semifinal. Chip count relatively close.
And the quiet continues. It'll be interesting to see if these players say another word to each other for the rest of this match. Yosh raises to 100,000 with Queen 10 offsuit.
Been talking about the rivalry between these two players and Tony G, and now we have bad blood between Perry and Nakano.
I'll say it again, at this level of poker, when a player tells you he has 8 high, you don't ask him to turn over his hand.
9-4-8 on the flop.
Nothing for Ralph Perry. Yosh would make a straight with a jack.
Bet 75.
Ralph Perry betting 75,000.
That's a kind of weak bet. Usually would mean that Ralph Perry has nothing or a very strong hand. And Yosh is trying to decide which one it is.
I'm all in.
All in.
He makes his decision, goes all in with Queen High. A great semi-bluff from Yosh. Reason it's a semi-bluff is because Yosh can make the ultimate nuts with a jack, but Ralph's got to throw his hand away.
Australia is already in our championship final. Japan and Russia, the only two countries left alive, and Yosh Nakano adding to his chip lead.
Yosh is not happy with Ralph. Ralph knows that Yosh is not happy with him. Ralph really doesn't care. He just wants to win.
And Yosh looking at ace-queen offsuit.
But the lack of conversation has reached the level of uncomfortableness.
The silence starting to be deafening here in this final semifinal. Yosh raising to 120,000. Perry with a king 10 suited in the big blind.
All in.
Ralph's going all in with his king 10 suited.
Count it.
And Yosh has counted. Ralph Perry had a pretty good hand, king 10 suited. Yosh has a better hand, ace queen. Yosh is probably going to call.
250, 450, 550, 581.
581.
Since the era of TV poker, it's much more likely for Yosh to call. This is not an easy call, by the way. It might seem like it now. But if Ralph Perry has ace-king, aces, kings, even queens, Yosh is in terrible shape. And if Ralph Perry has a small pair, Yosh is actually an underdog.
What's out there?
Yosh wants to know how much is in the pot right now.
Spread it. It's 80 times 3, 240, right? Okay, I call.
That 240 makes a big part in Yosh's decision to call.
Queen 10, king 10.
Now Yosh realizes he made the right call, and he's a big favorite.
Every time you raised me, you had that big hand, or you just...
Ralph Perry wants to start talking now.
That's the most they've talked to each other in quite a while.
Ralph Perry's got to get lucky here to stay in this tournament.
On the flop, 5-6 jack, no help for Perry.
It's down to 27%.
Good flop for you.
So far, so good.
Was a good flop for Yosh.
Cross my fingers, I guess.
Ralph needs a king or a 10.
The turn, still no help for Perry.
Down in the river.
Looks like I'm done.
Ralph Perry needs a king or a 10. Otherwise, Yosh is going to face Tony G.
His wife Mary anxious, and on the river it is a deuce.
Congratulations. Yosh.
Always a struggle. Thank you, Ralph.
Two players that desperately wanted to meet Tony G in our championship heads-up final, and it will be Yosh Nakano He's guaranteed himself at least $150,000 as he eliminates Russia's Ralph Perry.
Where's Tony G?
He's not here, but he is coming. Yosh wins the second chance semifinal, and for Ralph Perry, he's going to have to wait for Tony G somewhere down the road.
I got my wish. I wanted another crack at Tony. I like him to keep his game the way it is. Now that it's a 2 out of 3 format, I think be able to utilize more of my skills. And, hope he doesn't draw it on me.
Second time, Yosh has pointed that out.
Yosh will get his chance next Saturday, 5 Eastern. We started with 21 of the best players in the world. We're down to Tony G from Australia, Yosh Nakano from Japan. For Gabe Kaplan, I'm Jeff Medders. We'll see you next Saturday for the conclusion of the Intercontinental Poker Championship.